Yo, yo, yo! What's up, Seattle? Hell yeah! How are y'all doing tonight? Let's try that again. How are y'all doing tonight? Yes. All right. Before the show gets started, I'm looking over here. Yeah, we got two empty seats over there, and I have a wad of drink tickets. So, oh yes, I see people standing up. I have 2 free drink tickets for the people who want to sit over there with me in the splash zone. Anyone like them? No takers? All right, dude, get here. Get over here. There you go, my friend. Aha, I see more takers. I see more. Oh, one more. Here we go. Excellent. Any more empty seats over here that I can give away? I got so many more drinks to give. All right, cool. Thank you so much. Your job as the new takers of the seats, I would like to ask you to cheer even harder than everyone around you. Hell yes! All right. So we do that every show. Hell yeah, that was so good. All right, who here has been to Ignite before? Raise your hand up high. Oh my God! Thank you for coming back. It is a beautiful day outside, and you're here, and we're gonna give you an even more beautiful night. So glad you're here. All right. For your first timers, raise your hand up high if it's your first time at Ignite. Yes, hell yeah. Welcome. I am so glad you made it. You have found yourself at a very special event. So Ignite is sort of a Seattle cultural institution. We're kind of a big deal. Because you see, there are events like this one all over the world. They're all called Ignite, but the very first one was this one. Right. That's right. And as the first one, we have a reputation. We are known for being the loudest, most supportive crowd ever. Can you show me? Can you show me? Awesome. And we've been cheering that hard for 20 years. Yeah, we've been around for a while. Speaking of things that have been around for a while, I recently hit a milestone. Yeah. Earlier this month, it was my birthday. Hell yeah, Tauruses, right? And I am officially, unquestionably, in my mid-30s. Yeah, thank you, thank you. I'm Maurice, and I'm your host. And as your host, my job is to tell you how we do things around here. Because while Ignite looks like a lot of other speaking events you've been to, there are a lot of things that make us unique. So I made you an Ignite Talk to tell you all about Ignite Talks. Let's begin. Oh, Ignite is an open submission speaking event, which is a fancy way of saying, on this stage, anyone can talk about anything. You guys sent us 90 submissions, we read through all of them, and we chose the 11 best stories. And I love a good story. For my birthday this year, I told people, guys, I'm in my mid-30s, I can buy my own gifts. Don't give me gifts, give me gossip. And tonight, I get to pay it forward. Tonight, we're serving tea. Yeah, a lot of the talks tonight are gonna make you go, ooh, and oh my. For example, there's a talk called What Viagra Taught Me About Peak Performance. Oh my, exactly, oh my. Ignite talks are all about variety. We have the Viagra talk, we have a talk about being adopted, we have a talk about supply chains, we have a talk about being one of 31 children. Yeah. All the talks are very different, but the thing they all have in common is the Ignite format. Ignite talks are 5 minutes long. Speakers prepare 20 slides that are auto-advancing every 15 seconds. You'll notice I don't have a clicker. None of the speakers do, because these are an auto-advance. And this is how it feels to give your first Ignite talk. I know, because this is me giving my first Ignite talk. I was so nervous. This was my first time on stage ever. And this crowd could tell. You guys could tell I was freaking out. But this crowd was so supportive. And when you saw me freaking out, you cheered me on, and you helped me find my voice. Fast forward 5 years later, and I'm hanging out here. So, I know more than most people that Ignite is more than just a speaking event. It's a community of people who are super cool and curious and supportive. They're people who showed up on this bright sunny day, came downtown, got parking, not because you want to poo-poo on someone else's ideas or critique somebody. No. You're here because you genuinely want to know what it's like to be in someone else's shoes. So when someone gets up here and tells their story, we cheer them on. Isn't that right, Ignite? Isn't that right? So when I introduce one of our 11 amazing speakers, what do? And they're talking, and then something goes wrong. Do we boo them? No. What do we do? Yeah! Hell yes! Fuck. Sorry, I will never get tired of that. You guys are so awesome. Now, if you have some friends who want to cheer on virtually, maybe they couldn't be here tonight, send them a link to our live stream at igniteseattle.com/live. Let me tell you how tonight's going to work. We have 11 talks, and we're going to cut them up. So we're going to start off with the first 6 talks. Then we're going to have a little intermission, where we'll have intermission activities. I'll tell you all about it later. Then we're going to come back for the last 5 talks. At that point, the event will end, but the party doesn't stop. Come to the after party. It is downstairs. You don't have to put on a jacket. It's right here. The Ignite Seattle clerics have set up a force field. It wards off the effects of the Seattle freeze. That force field works, yo, like I met my partner at the Ignite after party. Because at Ignite, talking to strangers isn't just encouraged, it's normal. At Ignite, everything here is all volunteer run. So let's give a round of applause to the volunteers who worked so hard to put it on. We also want to thank our sponsors, Geocaching HQ. They have an app called Adventure Lab, which is a fantastic way to get to know a new area using outdoor scavenger hunts. I've tried it. It's super fun, it's super family friendly, and it's super free. So try it out. And there we go. That was my talk. Now you know everything about Ignite. You know how to do Ignite now. Yes, sorry. All right, are you guys ready for some great talks? All right, guys, we have a great show for you tonight. Kicking us off is John. John, when he was 18 years old, he was running a hotel. He had no idea what he was doing until a wild plant saved everything. Everyone, let's welcome John.
I was 18 years old in my home in Venezuela, enjoying tea when a friend called. John, would you like to come and run a hotel in the mountains with me? A hotel? Dude, wait, are you serious? I am not ready for that. That's the whole point, he says. We're going to go there and learn with our fingernails. That's a Venezuelan phrase that means learning the hard way with the resources we find. So, I say yes. The name of a hotel, Páramo Real, 25 rooms, a restaurant, and a tiny church. When we arrived, this man was opening the gate, and he didn't say much, just, if you explore the valley at night, make sure not to speak so loud, because the fog could come down and you can get lost. So we stepped in, and everything looked dusty and smelled like no one has been there for a while. That's when we realized it was only the 2 of us running the whole thing. One day, a family of 20 arrived without warning and no reservation. Lucia and Jose with their loud, fun family. They were doing a road trip. Next morning, during breakfast time, all of them asked for a Spanish omelette. And we didn't have potatoes. So my friend and I looked at each other and we were like, what now? We searched and we found sweet plantains. So instead of potatoes, we used sweet plantains. We chopped them, we fried them, we hope, we served them. Surprisingly, they loved it. It became their new favorite breakfast. And one day turned into 5. We didn't have dryers. But you could see my friend and I in a room at 3 a.m. jumping bed to bed, trying to squeeze wet sheets and dry them by hand. We were exhausted, but we really wanted to provide clean sheets. On the 3rd night, during dinner time, I see Jose lip syncing a song to Lucia. Bésame mucho. It was playing softly in the background. I went to the kitchen for a moment, and suddenly I hear this strong sound. Boom! And somebody screamed, Mal de páramo! Altitude sickness. Then I see this elder laying on the floor, lacking oxygen, no medicine. I froze, my heart started beating. I look up and I see that no one is doing anything. And I turn around and I see the food, the water, and suddenly I see this painting of this wild, fuzzy plant that you can only find in the high altitudes in the Andes. And it has a flower similar to a sunflower. And that's when I remembered, Frailejón. My grandmother used to believe that this wild plant can heal anything. She used to give me so much Frailejón tea that I lost count. It was warm, earthy, with honey. And I'm still alive. So I grabbed a flashlight and I ran as fast as I could inside of this dark, cold valley, and the warning echoed in my mind. If you explore the valley at night, make sure not to speak so loud, because the fog could come down. And it did. Panic doesn't care about folklore. And for some illogical reason, I yelled, Frailejón, where are you? The fog surrounded me, and I could hardly see the hotel lights. Nature was so silent, and I only hear my breathing and my steps on these small rocks. I turned around, and I saw it there, standing like this silent hero waiting. I grabbed it and I ran as fast as I could, and I boiled water and I made the tea just like my grandmother used to. I sat beside Jose. I gave him, and then all the family actually surrounded me, all confused, and my hands were shaking. I gave them the tea and waited. A few minutes later, he smiled. He took a deep breath. And just like that, he was fine. Oh boy. We were amazed. As he stood up, I thought, gracias, abuela. Thank you, grandma. Next day, we kept making sweet plantain omelets, but this time we dried the sheets under the sun. Something have shifted. Imagine if we are all taught to learn with our fingernails. Maybe we face more fears. Or maybe we trust our instincts more. Who knows? But that night, with a memory, a flashlight, and the willingness to save somebody, we did. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, John. Good way to start off the night, yeah? John saved a life. John saved a man. Unfortunately, John can't save the 10 to 20% of you who are gonna hate this next talk. Everyone, let's welcome Rez.
The itty bitty kitty's kibble. was moist and yummy. This warm milk is smooth and creamy. Now, some of you have no idea what's going on right now, while others of you want to beat me in the face with a baseball bat. In fact, 10 to 20% of you, when you saw the title of this talk, you knew it was coming. While for a bunch of you, didn't even register. So what the heck is going on here? What was with those weird phrases I just said, those noises I made? Those are common triggers for people with something called misophonia. And during this talk, I don't just want you to learn conceptually what this means, I want you to feel it. I want you experientially to know what this is about. And I want to give you permission, if you are someone who experiences, to yell, to pound your fist, to stand up, to clap, to make yourself known. So what the heck is misophonia? It was discovered in 2013. It's not officially a disorder, but it's kind of a condition where seemingly random, innocent-sounding words or noises really set someone off. That miso sure looked yummy, didn't it? Ugh. It's like, that word is like fingernails on chalkboard to me. It's like when you go to the dentist's office and the drill hits a nerve. Oh, it's just the worst. You just gripped. And what's so strange about it is it's just not well understood. It commonly causes rage in those of us who experience this, but it feels inappropriate to feel rageful, so we suppress that. So what do when you aren't a psychologist, you're wondering what the heck this is about? You go on Reddit. What was amazing was how many Redditors are like, oh my God, you too? It's not just me? It was so fresh. And what's really interesting, too, is there's a sense of fairness with this. So often, these are innocent sounds or words or whatever. But if it's purposeful, if it's guilty, then it's a really big deal. So here are some experiences from my life. I remember as a child, when my mom would go to the grocery store, this cute little market, and she would get coffee beans ground. And I was 3 or 4 years old. I would scream. I just hated that loud noise. I had a graduate school classmate who would slurp those noodles during lunch. I couldn't handle it. I didn't know what was going on, but I just couldn't deal with it. So those are innocent ones. How about those guilty ones? I've never been in a fight in my life. I had a college roommate. Before I knew what was going on here, he's chewing kind of loudly. I said, hey, would you mind just like chewing with your mouth closed? It kind of bothers me a bit. He goes, what do you mean like this? I wanted to punch his lights out. I had a time I was on the phone with my partner, and she was eating something. I was like, can you stop chewing my ear? You're killing me. In that tone, not a super nice thing to say to your partner who's eating. Normal. So what do? How do you have a compassionate conversation with someone about this, where they're not going to get defensive, where they'll hopefully understand your suffering? I was a junior member of staff when a senior partner chewed really loud at his new company. I didn't know what the heck to do about that. I lead with compassion, and I try to gain some understanding and ask for help. I say, listen, this is something I experience, and I don't need you to change anything, but I need to maybe take care of myself. I might need to step away, because this is really tough. So here's an example, again, with my partner and the Y word, which she watches me get gripped about. And I just said, hey, this is early on. I said, listen, I have this thing called misophonia, and it's seemingly weird, innocent sounds or words, but they really set me off. So if you could maybe not use that word so much, and she's been understanding. With one of my former roommates, after we were no longer living together, he was kind of a loud chewer. I had never brought it up. We didn't eat at the same time that much. He was super cool about it, very compassionate. So what can you in the audience do about this? Know this is going on around you. Be compassionate with people who experience this. And if you experience misophonia, get help. There are ways to cope with this. But lastly, if you work in marketing or advertising, don't use triggering sounds, Coca-Cola. I'm never buying your products again. And please, as you're talking about this with people, don't say someone's trigger words on purpose. We don't want any fistfights in the lobby tonight.
Thank you, Rez. Oh, such fun. God. I just want to see, who here has misophonia? Wait. Oh, wow, okay. That is a lot, okay. I'm so sorry. Thank you for coming. I saw you like when he took out the drill, you were just like, I know what's coming. So, all right. Before we hop into our next talk, just a quick question for this section over here. We have lost a green jacket. Has anyone seen like a green coat maybe on one of the seats or underneath one of the seats? Yeah. Oh, yes, you saw one? Oh. Okay, cool. Yeah, give it to Beth over here if you find it. All right. Cool. Thank you. Back to the show. Our next talk is called She Won Millions. And that's when everything fell apart. Everyone, let's welcome Justin.
This is my mom, Maria. In 1976, she had a double mastectomy, which was followed up by reconstructive surgery with silicone breast implants. And by 1980, she was so sick that she couldn't get out of bed. Eventually, she found her way to the Stanford Medical Center, where they cut a lump off the size of her neck, the size of a walnut. And when they sliced it open, clear silicone gel came out. The implants had ruptured, the silicone had free-floated throughout her body, and her lymph node system had picked it up. They didn't know what to call her illness, so they called it Maria Cunha-Stern syndrome, named after her. In 1984, when I was 10 years old, she sued Dow Corning, the manufacturer of the implants, and they had lied to the FDA. They said that they were safe, but in fact, they were not. And after 3 years of trials and appeals, she was awarded $1.7 million in 1987. And in 87, that's like life-changing money. She was a GS5 with the Forest Service. She was pulling down $12,500 a month. So I mean, this is like a big deal. And the purchasing started quickly. She bought diamond rings and Rolex watches and new homes and fur coats and trips to Hawaii and Egypt. But the very, very first thing she bought was a Louis Vuitton bag. And we called it the doctor's bag because it didn't look luxurious. It looked utilitarian and tough and something like a Boy Scout would carry. We didn't get it at all. And the price tag on this bag was $1,200. Looking back, I had to know, like, why? Why of all the things would she buy such a dude bag? Louis Vuitton today is one of the world's leading luxury brands. They own something like 74 different luxury brands, but it wasn't always this way. Louis Vuitton founded his shop originally in Paris in 1854, and before him, if you traveled on a train or on a steamer boat, you would buy a trunk that had a rounded top, and it would be made of leather, and it didn't stack for shit. It had a rounded top on it because if water sat on it, it would soften the leather, and as the food supplies dwindled on the ship you were on, the rats would start to eat your trunk. And so Louis Vuitton said, I'm going to revolutionize this. I'm going to make a stackable trunk, and instead of making it out of leather, I'm going to make it out of something called vulcanized canvas. And vulcanized canvas is a piece of cotton canvas that has been dipped in rubber. It's an early predecessor of vinyl, and to this day, all Louis Vuitton products are made of vulcanized canvas. The handles and the tags are leather, but everything else is vulcanized canvas. An average piece of Louis Vuitton costs between $170 and $250 to make. and they spend 10 times that amount merchandising and marketing it, putting it into hands of celebrities so that people like you and me think that if we want to look rich or powerful or successful, we should carry Louis Vuitton as well, which is exactly what my mom thought. She had no idea that the rats were not going to eat her bag. She knew that it made her feel rich and powerful and successful and wealthy and important. And by 1992, the transformation was complete. She was living full life luxury. That was the same year that the class action lawsuit went through. There were 170,000 plaintiffs. It was based on my mom's case. She was not one of the plaintiffs. They were awarded $2.5 billion. She didn't see a dime of that. And 14-year moratorium was placed on silicone breast implants, saving thousands of women's lives. My mom did that. By 1993, 1 year later, when it was time for me to go to college, there was no money left. She sold the house on the fancy side of town. She bought a duplex on the outskirts of town. And in 2024, when she passed away, she still had the fur coat and the diamond ring and the Rolex watches and the fancy car and the vulcanized canvas bag. And so I have to ask, what is the cost of luxury?
Is that vulcanized canvas? Cute. Some of us see our lives as soap operas. Some of us look at our lives and think it's a high-action thriller. But for Chelsea, life is a supply chain. Let's find out more. Everyone, let's welcome Chelsea.
We never notice the supply chain until the basics go missing. Think about it. The last time you thought about eggs before they started costing $15 a dozen, or toilet paper before we were fighting over it during COVID. And don't get me started on the word tariffs. I'm sure even if you don't know what it means, we can all agree that we'll all be feeling its impact. I work in the supply chain, and that means that I'm responsible for making sure the right thing gets to the right place at the right time for the right cost, more or less. And there are 4 parts to it. You plan, you source, you make, and you deliver. And this simple system runs the world. And I'm so happy to be one of the people that keeps the world running. So I'm going to be sharing with you a couple of the things that I've learned about life so far in this crazy career. So 5:45 a.m. was the time that I had to catch the bus to get to school. So I grew up on a small island. It's in the Caribbean. You might know it. It's called Jamaica. And that meant that because I wanted to go to the best high school, it was 2 hours away by bus. So my mornings would look like this. 5 a.m., my mom would wake me up. I'd say she'd tag me in, and it was a sprint to get showered, get dressed, grab my stuff, and get out the door to grab the bus to school. I was always optimizing for sleep. So I knew that I could save 30 minutes if I ironed my clothes the night before, or 5 minutes if I grabbed breakfast to go, or 15 minutes if I went to bed earlier the night before and then did my homework or studying on the bus. And I complained a lot. But in Jamaica, we have a saying that says, if you want good, your nose have to run. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Jamaican patois, that just means that anything you want in life that's good, you have to work hard for it. In more polished terms, my mom would say, it builds character. But at 5 a.m., I'm sorry, Mom, but I did not want my character to be built. This girl just wanted sleep. So I was up and on the bus by 5:45 a.m. every morning. So while I don't have decades of supply chain experience, I've been managing, planning, executing, and optimizing for most of my life. And that's probably the reason why, to this day, every Monday I make my "so I don't crash out this week" list. And that helps me to plan the things that I need to execute and execute on the things that I need to deliver. Because how else am I going to manage a demanding job, a new promotion, deepen my marriage? Hello. Eat healthy, stay connected with my family, stay connected with friends, make new friends, and change the world. It has to be planned. Earlier, I mentioned that there are 4 parts of the supply chain, right? You plan, you source, you make, and you deliver. But how do you actually do that when the world looks like? When there's a global pandemic or the government introduces new tariffs. When everything is on back order. You diversify your sources so you don't become dependent on one form of supply. You build resilience. And it's the same thing I've realized about life, because no one form of validation from my job or my partner or my family was going to keep me going. It was the balance of them all. And when that wasn't working, I reminded of myself of the girl that woke up at 5 a.m. in the morning because she wanted the best education on the island. That's the character I built. Well, according to my mom, at least. So if you find yourself in a backorder moment where you've planned and you've worked and you've executed and still things aren't coming true, I implore you to diversify your sources of fulfillment and find joy. And when that doesn't work, you remind yourself of the character you've built, the person who can do hard things and have done hard things and will continue to do hard things. Because when things are on back order, it doesn't mean that something good isn't coming. It just means that something even better is being built. And I promise you, that when it finally ships, it will be worth the wait.
Thank you, Chelsea. She's so cool. God, what a go-getter. Great outfit, too. So much. Okay. Our next talk is hot off the presses. It's by Molly, and her talk is called Who Adopted Who? Let's find out. Everyone, let's welcome Molly.
Nearly all my life, I've lived with this deep, inexplicable void, and I never understood why. Now, I was adopted, and it's really important for me to tell you that I was raised by an incredible family. But before that, I was born Young-un in Seoul, South Korea, on October 24th, 1982. And that's about all I knew about my past. Why was I given up? Were my parents searching for me? These were all questions that I resigned myself to likely never getting the answers to in my lifetime. But why even ask these questions? Well, if you were adopted, you might know why. If you were not, I liken this feeling to maybe being lost. If you've ever been in an unfamiliar place running late, there's that moment where you realize you are not going to make it to your destination on time, and you still have no idea where you're at. It is the worst feeling. Maybe a little something like that. What are you even supposed to do with that? Well, if you're like me, you'll spend the next 42 years of your life punishing yourself trying to answer those questions, going a million miles an hour. There's a point where I realized this void was my superpower. It fueled me to work harder than those around me, to stay curious, to travel, to go bigger and faster, to build things, and to seek connections. But let me be clear, keeping yourself busy and amassing achievement does not help you answer those questions. In fact, in my case, it made me feel more lonely. And you know what? Sometimes it's in those moments that you realize that you're doing something wrong and that void is still there with you. It took me literal isolation, thank you, COVID, and massive loss for me to realize what was important to me. I lost my best friend of 15 years, Penny. My father passed away at the point in which we were finally starting to connect as adults. And now as a single female homeowner, I realize how much I wish I had his wisdom. I experienced a traumatic injury 5 surgeries later, a knee replacement, and chronic pain that I still live with. And I'm finally accepting the fact that my relationship with the outdoors and things that bring me so much joy may never be the same ever again. I moved to a new city, trying to chase the American dream. I closed one business, sold another to try and find balance in my life. I said goodbye to a relationship of 7 years that I gave my everything to, and I denied myself the possibility of new love, knowing I had a void to answer to. Now at 42 years old, I realize that I may never get the chance to have children of my own because I kept myself too busy. On the outside, I felt like I always had to be strong to take care of others that depended on me. But on the inside, I was still fighting the call of that void. And then, November of this last year, everything changed. I was splitboarding up the side of Stevens Pass with my 2 huskies, and I found myself text messaging halfway across the world with my birth mother. Thanks to 23andMe, we were connected, and I got the chance to start answering some of those questions. I learned that after she gave me up, she actually tried to go back for me, only to find that I had been sent away. I learned that she also lived with this quiet ache and this void, and she tried to find me multiple times. These are all things that I had been waiting to hear my entire life, and I was finally getting to hear them. And then, actually, 2 weeks ago today, I found myself getting off an airplane, being greeted by my birth mother. And I don't know the words that we even said to each other, but I remember that first hug. And you guys, it's crazy. She's so much like my American mom, and she's so much like me. She is so funny. And I can't tell you how wild it is to be able to look in the eyes of someone that you've been searching all your life for and see them looking back at you thinking the same exact thing. Not only did I get to meet my birth mom, I got to meet my 2 siblings, my nephews, my cousin, aunt, uncle, and even my grandparents from the grave, and I learned that I come from a long line of hardworking people who have lost a lot. It's a small family, but they care so deeply for each other, and they welcomed me in with open arms, and you know what? It felt a little bit like I was adopted again. All these years, I thought that being adopted was a curse, but it was a gift. I was gifted the fire and drive to accomplish things that my birth mother literally dreamt of for me in her entire life. It was a gift because now I have 2 families and I have 2 moms. Holy crap.
I've heard that talk like 3 times. I still cry. Oh my God. So, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Molly. Yeah. You know, usually we give speakers a month to prepare their talks, but Molly literally had 1 week. She came back from Korea last week, got off her 20-hour plane ride, and then went straight to dress rehearsal. And it all came together beautifully. So well done, Molly. And Molly's adoptive mom is here tonight. And she flew in from Texas, is that right? Where'd you flew in? You flew in from, where was it? Arizona. So that's amazing. All right. I'm sorry. Okay. Sorry, I just got so moved. Okay. All right. Our next speaker is Matthew. And Matthew has made the bold claim that keyboards shouldn't be 5 feet long. I don't know, dude. Prove it. Everyone, let's welcome Matthew.
I recently found myself using what might be the world's largest keyboard, but is almost certainly the worst. 1,000 keys, one for each of the 1,000 most common English words. So I'm a technical artist, for lack of a better description, and I really like to explore technical interfaces, sort of as a way to try and see my own context from the outside. What about our world is actually necessary, and what is just historical happenstance? Take programming languages. What if we had continued to use the really distinctive flowchart notation from Gottlob Frege's Begriffsschrift? It turns out it works fine as a language, though you do have to get used to using the implications operator. But one thing I keep coming back to are keyboards, because they're really kind of weird if you think about them too much. Imagine proposing a new tech gadget with 104 buttons, and you just had to memorize where they were to use it effectively. What else could these have looked like? I made this one based on a storage tray for pieces of physical type from a printing press. Notice the separate uppercase and lowercase. And the E key is so big because if you're typesetting an entire page, you're going to need more pieces of E than Q. And using it wasn't bad. You can almost touch type with it. And it makes you think about how text is really a series of glyphs. And some of our letters are actually multiple glyphs. And some of our glyphs are multiple letters. So what about typing with entire words instead of letters? At first glance, if you squint, this might sound like an optimization, moving up a layer of abstraction. Might. But what set of words to use? And this is really important because it has to maintain that magic of natural language, the ability to describe anything and everything. Well, luckily I already knew of a smallish set of words that could do this. In Randall Munroe's comic, Upgoer 5, he describes the workings of a Saturn V rocket using only the 1,000 most common English words. Or the 1,000, because the word 1,000 isn't actually in the list. And this is actually a really interesting challenge, limiting yourself to a small vocabulary like that. It makes you confront the complexity without hiding behind jargon. If you can't describe something in simple terms, how well do you actually understand it? As Randall said, this end must be pointing towards the ground if you want to go to space. If it starts pointing towards space, you are having a bad problem and you will not go to space today. So, with that set of words chosen, I had to start making the keyboard. And the problem with the keyboard with 1,000 keys is that every step is multiplied by 1,000. Even just soldering the switches on took upwards of a week, but that was just a matter of patience. The keycaps all had to be custom printed, and that required new processes. I was using dye-sub printing, where heat and pressure transfer a printed design, and I got it working okay eventually in one-offs. but that needed to be scaled up for mass production or it would never get done. So with a 3D printed jig, I could do 16 at a time. And then with another jig, I could be loading one while the other was baking in the heat press, and that really sped things up. And it was about this time, as the keycaps were getting finished and the soldering was done, I started to think seriously about the practical realities of a keyboard the size of a small surfboard. It needed a protective case, or the first time I tried to take it anywhere, it would fall over in the back of the car and destroy itself. Unfortunately, carrying cases don't come much wider than 59 inches because shipping costs get really nonlinear at that point. But classic road cases, those are mostly custom made and you can just buy the parts and make whatever you want. And it's pretty fun, kind of like Lego, but with rivets. And there it was, I had my 1000 keyboard. So what's it like to use? It's overwhelming. Even just moving back and forth to find your keys is a full body workout. It is kind of a fun feeling, like using a really early computer or something, but mostly it's just mentally exhausting and very slow. I could only use it for an hour or two at a time, tops. And one of the big problems is that there are no proper nouns on it. You can't name things. So the 1000 is perfectly fine for describing really detailed technical concepts. But when it comes to human communication, it just fails immediately. We like to name things. So I do not recommend using a 5-foot wide keyboard. 104 button peripherals remain weird, but entering text character by character makes a lot of sense. QWERTY may be historical happenstance, and it's definitely suboptimal. But compared to some of the alternatives, it's a solid B+. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you so much. So fun fact, Matthew didn't just make one keyboard. He made 2 keyboards, and he brought them both. They're downstairs in the lobby. Go play with them during intermission, which is right now. Thank you, guys. I'll see you back here in 25 minutes. Yo, 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 welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Are you guys ready for the second round of talks? Right. Before we get started, 2 little things. Number 1, if you guys want to get in contact with any of the speakers, they've left their contact info over here. So I'll give you a moment to pull out your phones and take photos of this. Cool. All right. Second ask of y'all. We do ask that you guys follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Reason being, we run free public speaking workshops, and while they are free, space is limited. So sign up for updates over here. Those are the 2 plugs that the marketing person asked me to say. Now, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, one more time. Are you guys ready for the second half of the show? Yo, dude, cheer squad, cheer squad. There we go, yes! Okay, our next speaker is Seline. And I come from a big family. I am the youngest of 5 siblings. And I never meet anyone with a larger family than me. But Seline has me beat. Girl has 30 siblings. Can you imagine sharing a bathroom with 30 siblings? All right, here to tell us all about it is Seline. Everyone, let's welcome Seline.
Hello. Bonsoir. I will send you greeting from West Africa. One leg in, one leg out. The game I played at age 5, that became the story of my life. A life I lived divided between poverty, wealth, traditional African roots, French education, witchcraft, Jesus. I am the 21st of 31 children. Yes, you heard me. 15 brothers, 15 sisters. Each one of my sisters thought they were the favorite of my father. Don't mess with me. I know how to fight. I know how to argue. Most importantly, I am flexible. I know how to love everybody. From my father, an engineer, a vice president in the Ivory Coast, a Christian, a polygamist with 4 wives. Who didn't know how to read and write? Actually, my 4 mothers. My mom signed X on her bank account, not because she anticipated Twitter becoming X. That X became part of my identity. Should I carry it as a cross or as a crossroad? One of those roads led me to an elite school where I was not invited at parties in fancy homes. I was not rich enough. I was rejected. It hurts. Yet, in our big home in the slum, for the kids, I was not poor enough. They made fun of my books, of my style. They mocked my education. Education, that was the core of my upbringing. You see, my siblings are medical doctors, engineers, pharmacists, accountants, teachers. We even managed to have a nun. With so much diversity, I had to figure out, who am I? Who am I really? Am I going to be the Frenchy French? Or am I going to be the traditional African? Depending on who I was with, I developed code switching. I changed my name. I changed my style. I changed my accent. The perfect chameleon. And I tried to belong. And the more I try, I realized that I was not born to fit in. I was born to stand out. I made choices. I said no to make a French woman my role model while my mother was toiling under the African sun. No. I decided to study Shaka Zulu, an African epic I could relate to. Amandla, power, Zulu, 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 Zulu. I chose my daughter's name, an African name, out of pride, not an apology. And I designed my own clothes, mixing African fabrics and French chic. How do I look tonight? From a music perspective, like a complaint unknown, like a rolling stone. Thank you, baby. And I will dance to Miriam Makeba, pata pata, pata pata. Somebody do that with me. And I married a white man over there in the Catholic Church to be the only wife, not 1 out of 4. You won't even dream about mistresses. Isn't it, Mr. Brozovic? Leveraging my faith, self-love, love of my family, I put together the puzzle that make my life. As I stand here, 1 leg in, 1 leg out, I don't view that as a burden, but as a bridge. Merci. Thank you. Ja, mo, mo.
Thank you, Seline. Did it just get freaking cool in here, or is it just me? Am I looking the right way? Yes. Okay. It's really hard to see. So, like I said, I'm in my mid-30s, and I thought my partying days are behind me. I thought, dude, I feel like I own a foam roller, right? Like I'm having a foam roller and your party days, like they can't coexist. You can't have a physical therapist and go to the club. But our next speaker thinks different. Noah's here to tell us, Noah's here to tell us what it's like or all about raving past 50. Everyone, let's welcome Noah!
I didn't go to my first rave until I was almost 50 years old. This is Seattle, so I've got some lifelong ravers, but I came to it relatively late, or maybe just in time. 6 years ago, my identity, my life, my time was all consumed by work and family. But like many of us on the grind, I was starting to seek something more meaningful, something with a deeper connection. My friend Jesse suggested that we go to our first raves. He was checking things off of his bucket list. And it wasn't just any rave, but it was Electric Daisy Carnival. EDC is one of the biggest raves in the world. It attracts over 500,000 people over the course of 3 days to the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I'm a busy guy, but I like mischief, and I live for story value, so I'm super intrigued. There was no connection between raving and my seeking. It was just an opportunity to be feral in the desert for 3 days. So we made it happen, and it turns out that I discovered so much more than a feral playground. The rave community is united around a philosophy of plur, peace, love, unity, and respect. And it means that wherever you rave, you're going to find people who are open and curious and willing to accept you for exactly who you are. The environment is electric with the DJ playing this unsa, unsa, unsa music that you feel in your chest. And the lights and the lasers are just driving your adrenaline. But it's the ritual of dancing with other people, that communal dancing to the rhythmic beats of the DJ that makes you feel connected. And it's so much stronger than anything that you would imagine. We should probably also talk about the drugs. The rave community is very accepting of drugs, and rave drugs are the happy drugs. MDMA, which is Molly if you're under 40, and ecstasy if you're over 40, floods your system with serotonin and gives you this profound joy and presence in the moment. The psychedelics like magic mushrooms or LSD give the world texture and vibrancy and dissolve your ego enough that you're just connected with the crowd. I'm not saying you have to do drugs in order to get this out of raves, but we're adults. These are relatively safe drugs. If you respect the drugs, they turn the whole thing up to 11. When all these things come together, the community, the culture, the environment, the drugs, you're set in this place where your monkey mind quiets. You get to touch ecstasy. And you live in this moment where it's not just going to be okay, it's going to be great. So you think you might want to rave? Are you over 50? Because there's some benefits to being a little older. If you're fortunate enough to have what they call adult money, and if you're going to a venue that has any form of VIP, it's totally worth spending the money. You get shorter lines to get in. You get shorter lines to get out. You get shorter lines to go to the bathroom. It's adult raving 101 that you always pay for the upgraded bathrooms. You get a little more space to dance. You can find your own little spot to vibe out. You get your own little moment of bliss. And I'm not saying that there aren't crowds in VIP, but it's amazing how you can find anonymity in the crowd at a rave. I've got a wonderful wife. I'm not looking for Instagram followers, so I can find my own little corner and just bliss out, and people are fine as long as I'm not doing something objectively weird. Personally, though, I fill my bucket by connecting with people in the crowd. The community has this cultural practice of exchanging little trinkets. They call it candy. My favorite form of candy are these little plastic ducks. They glow in the dark. I offer someone a duck. I say, it's a duck. Don't eat it. Because drugs. And we're instantly friends until my journey or their journey takes them somewhere else. The other thing, I'm just less self-conscious. If I'm going to be dancing on concrete for 6 hours, I'm going to wear the puffy shoes, even if they don't match my fit. And I don't mind smelling faintly like menthol as long as my icy hot back patch is doing its job. I'm coming up on 55 years old, and I'm going to continue raving. It's an important part of my spiritual practice. I get that it might not be for everybody, but my hope for each and every one of you is that you find a place where you can be accepted for exactly who you are, and you know that it's not just going to be okay, it's going to be great.
All right. Thank you, Noah. Okay, maybe there's still hope for me. I just can't wear these anymore. Thanks so much, Noah. Our next speaker is Sarah. And Sarah's here to tell us why the next generation of college students is really important to the future of our government. Everyone, let's welcome Sarah.
DOGE is not the first time America has thrown tech bros at government. In fact, back in the early part of the Obama administration, Obama himself would call prominent techies in Silicon Valley and Seattle and beyond and say, come do a tour of duty for your government. Your country needs you. And they showed up. This is 18F in the early days. People who came with talent and skill and technology to help upgrade government. And we thought of them as heroes, modernizing things like the ACA's website and services for veterans. So more and more programs were developed to bring tech talent into government. And this lore about who the heroes were really grew. But 10 years into this field, I was curious. Did these people stick around? Did we have just kind of high notes and low notes? Because the stories I heard were more complex than the press releases. So I decided to just very lightly stalk 400 people on LinkedIn for 6 years. 3 major innovation fellowship programs, and I tried to see if they returned to working in government, and just 17% on average did, which shocked my industry. Why didn't they return? Well, one, some burned out quickly. There were cultural challenges that they just couldn't hack government in terms of the culture. And 2, government is just huge. We have 90,000 governments in the United States because our founders were obsessed with distributing local control, which means major technology decisions are being made from local to federal, and heroes don't scale. We need government employees, surely, who understand modernizing technology and can make strategic decisions, but they're not always going to be the tech people that we think they are. I want to tell you a story about a woman in Washington I met, worked in county government, and one day she walked in to the office and everyone was sobbing. 2 reasons. 1, a beloved colleague of 40 years had suddenly passed overnight. 2, he was the only one who could run this card database and been doing it his entire career. And to replace him was $1,250 per hour with a consultant. And we have this kind of problem happening at every level of government frequently, because government isn't thinking strategically about bringing young people aside, long-term, knowledgeable employees, and transferring just not technology, but knowledge and context. Government has the second oldest employee pool of anybody in the United States. And unfortunately, we haven't even seen the peak of boomer retirements, and while Gen X is really excited about that, we do not have the millennials and Gen Z coming in behind to fill those roles. And in fact, Gen Z just stays 2 years in government before popping back to the private sector. The bridge between college and government employment is broken, in part because governments don't think they need entry-level employees, but each of us who have tried to file a PPP loan know that they need more capacity. And so I thought to myself, I want to build a more effective bridge between college students entering the workforce and government that needs them to be the next generation of technology talent. And I think we can use the work-study program in states and federal level to reimburse governments 75% on the dollar to employ college students part-time for 2 years in government. I'm a senior fellow at Data Foundation, partnering with Pitt UN to create a program called LaunchGrad, where we employ college students and help place them in partner governments so they work 2 years and gain additional training on everything from like cyber hygiene, like maybe don't download Temu and take that on your phone into work. And then how to make strategic technology purchasing decisions or sharing code with fellow governments. There is so much that we can train up and upskill young government employees, creating jobs of the future. And if we did that in Seattle, we would save Seattle $1.8 million and put $500,000 more into students' pockets with financial aid than we are right now with the 300 interns per year. So my goal with LaunchGrad is to build that bridge and to graduate 2,000 students per year in the next 5 years into government jobs to be the future of technology modernization of government. Thanks.
Thank you, Melissa. The second to last talk of the night. You can come right back. There's going to be another show. The second to last talk of the night is called I Left My Brain in Iraq. Everyone, let's welcome Melissa.
You'd be surprised how hard it is to prove you're injured when your wounds don't bleed. It was the summer of 2009, 115 degrees, the air hot and thick to where it stuck to your lungs like guilt. Inescapable, personal, and sand. So much sand. We had grown accustomed to the alerts for the smaller attacks, but to hear incoming, that's different. An attack on a building we were standing outside of literally swept us off our feet. And my body became the blast. Snatched from gravity, thrown into the air like a doll. And the earth met me, head first, like concrete rage, and then darkness. But not poetic darkness, the kind that seeps into your soul and erases the very existence of your senses. So much so that at 38 years old, a nightlight is comforting. It is proof to me that light still exists and that I didn't imagine it all. I came home to sights and sounds I hadn't heard in months. And the thing about sensory deprivation is, it's not just about the silence. It's the fight that your brain is in to fill that void. And at the time, as you saw, I came home to a little girl who needed her mom. Physically and emotionally available, but I had nothing to give. Because how do you soften something that needed to stay hard for survival? And how do you explain a traumatic brain injury that you can't see? One that doesn't show up in bandages and casts. I spent months doing functional MRIs, speech therapy, memory therapy, just to reorder my thoughts and find words that decided not to show up. When I walk into the VA, I am often mistaken for the daughter or the spouse. And don't get me wrong, there's honor in those titles. But it's also extremely important for me to be seen for who I am. I mean, let's be honest. I'm probably not what you think about when you hear the term disabled combat veteran. And oftentimes I question myself. Like when I pull up in the handicap spot, I stall, pretending to shuffle through the center console so folks can walk past me, because if I get out, do I look disabled enough? Will they judge me? Or even worse, say something. Somewhere in the fine print of service, they never talk about what happens when you don't come back whole. You're trained for two outcomes. Either you come back and prepare for what's next, or you don't come back at all. But this blurry, uncomfortable fucking middle, this is my life. And I'm not alone. So I've learned to rebuild myself. Steadily, sometimes clumsily, but without a manual. And without making a scene. Because there's no room to fall apart in a world that sometimes doesn't validate whether or not you belong. And to be honest, if I don't laugh about it, I'll cry. And then forget why I'm crying. So consider this. Not all wounds show up in scans. Not all heroes make the highlight reel. Sometimes they look like me. Still standing, hand shaking, speaking with a rattly voice and nervous, but proof that resilience is its own kind of brilliance. And I haven't stopped. Thank you. Thank you.
Damn, holy shit. All right, everybody, the last talk of the night. It's about doing big, hard things. It's about long walks. Long walks. It's about what Viagra can teach you about peak performance. Everyone, let's welcome Lay.
We're at the base camp on Mount Everest. Climbing this mountain takes over 2 months, 10 days just to get here. 4 weeks going up and down just to get you to the altitude. And then the summit push. 5 days from base camp to the top, 1 camp at a time. We started with the 25 climbers. including 4 women. But now, some men and all the other women have dropped out. So here we are, the night before we head up. I hear some curious chatter coming from the boys' club. I'm the only woman left. I can't resist. I have to go ask, what's going on? You won't believe it. Viagra. Yeah, turns out those little blue pills aren't just for date night. They can also boost blood flow and oxygen delivery at high altitude. I must be more intimidating than I look. I'm floored. Here I am, already dead last. And now the boys have a secret weapon? Fantastic, just fantastic. Now it's not just a climb. It's me versus Viagra. If you think I'm some elite athlete, you'd be wrong. I grew up a city girl in Beijing. My proudest athletic moment, surviving the 800-meter run just to pass the PE test. I came to Everett to see how far someone like me could go. After training for 6 years, I was still the smallest, slowest, weakest. I even won a secret vote. First one to quit. And I was recovering from a lung infection. The next morning, we set out for Camp 2. One teammate, who used to be just slightly faster than me, shoots up the mountain like he's on rocket fuel. That night, I lie in my tent, listening to him outside, laughing, giving glowing testimonials, better than any ads on TV. And me, staring into the dark. Am I really going to lose my Everest dream to a blue pill? Should I take the pill too? Or be my own miracle? No shortcuts, no magic. I have to be my own Viagra. On our way to Camp 4, something shifts. I take a deep breath and push harder. I catch up with him, and then I pass him. It might give you a boost for one night, but if you rely on it day after day, the magic fades. That night, we leave for the summit in blinding snow. A few hours in, he had quit. And I keep moving. I am my own Viagra. One breath, one step, until finally, the world opens up, and I stand on the highest point. Not luck, not a miracle, and definitely not a little blue pill. Real peak performance is built through years of falling, failing, and getting back up. In a world chasing quick wins, it's not what you swallow. It's what you summon. One breath, one step, your summit.
Well done. Awesome. What a great way to end the night. Let's give it up for Lei. All right. The next Ignite is on October 9. If you want to speak, you can get tickets at igniteseattle.com and submit by August 28 if you want to speak. Cool. If you want to speak, please submit on the website. Sorry, this is a well. Submit a talk on the website, August 28. It is super easy. You don't have to have your talk all written out. We just ask for a 1-paragraph pitch and a really awesome title. So please do that. We also offer public speaking workshops. So if you want to get better at public speaking, or you want to pitch or if you want some feedback on your pitch, come sign up for event updates over here. If you join before the end, not the end of the event, join within the next 24 hours and you will have a chance to win 4 free tickets to the next Ignite. And then, what is next again? The team. Okay. Again, it takes a lot of work to put this on. Volunteers, can you please stand up and take a bow? Thank you for putting this on. We are always looking for new volunteers, so please join the team over here. Go to the link to the QR code, or talk to us at the after party, which is downstairs. And I forgot to mention, Noah has brought his signature little ducks, not drugs. They're not drugs. And they will be available at the after party. And finally, the stars of the show. Can you come back up here, please? Come back up here for one final bow. Thank you, everybody. You have been a fantastic audience.